All of the offseason talk in the state of Florida was about the new head coaches at Florida and Miami. FSU was just a footnote in the headlines of the ACC race, and after playing lowly Duquesne, the Seminoles had to go play against LSU in New Orleans with a head coach that was on shaky ground after 2 straight years of mediocrity. Now fast forward to week 3, and FSU has a chance to become a narrative in their own right. A win at Louisville will show something we haven't seen during the Norvell era in Tallahassee. That is consistency. The biggest win Norvell's had to his name at FSU was in his first year beating number 5 North Carolina at home, only to get blown out in the next game on the road by 32. That game was in Louisville. Jordan Travis has to continue to be efficient in the air. He's using his improvisation skills to help receivers create separation during scramble plays, all while not turning the ball over. The run game will continue to be scary because Travis is such a threat to keep it on the zone read or tuck and run at every moment. But so far, the thing that is the most surprising about FSU is they just look more organized. They let LSU bury themselves by letting the Bengal Tigers make the controllable mistakes. The truth is, most teams lose games. They don't win them. And if Florida State continues to play clean, they will not only make headlines, but they will find themselves a whole lot closer to relevance than the preseason talking heads ever thought. Bringing my co-host David Cohn, Flaming Dragon as well. Appreciate you guys hopping in. Make sure you like and subscribe and that you're following us on all social media. You know, it's one thing to have a one-off win. And was it the biggest win of all time? Do we think LSU is an elite team? No, but you basically went. It was a road game for you. It was a de facto home game for LSU in New Orleans. And you went in there and you played solid, organized, smart football. We have not been able to say that about Florida State. We've seen them take a step forward sometimes and then take 2 steps back. Is Louisville the best opponent in the world? No, there was expectations coming in to this year. Scott Satterfield's seat's a little bit hot now after the loss against Syracuse. Got a big one at UCF on the road. But if Florida State goes and beats Louisville and they play organized and they look like the Florida State that we've seen, do you think, Cone, that this could be the year where Norvell really turns the corner at Florida State and therefore maybe Florida State will make that commitment monetarily to better facilities when you're looking at Miami and Florida and kind of what's going on over there?
I don't know what the administration is going to do because after Jimbo Fisher won a national title there, if they weren't going to give the money for the facilities then,
Very true.
I don't know like how good of a job Mike Norvell would have to do to be able to convince the administration to put a lot of funding in. I don't know that situation, but I do know that Mike Norvell seems to have this program headed in the right direction. You said it best. LSU is not an elite football team right now, but they have great athletes, and we know that they have a proven coach, the winningest coach in Notre Dame history. You go on the road and beat those athletes, that is a good win for a program that hasn't, they didn't win an opener or haven't had a winning season since 2016, something like that.
Exactly.
That is a very solid win. So we still have a lot of question marks, obviously, but I think that Mike Norvell does have this Florida State program headed in the right direction. And more than the discipline you talked about, they seem to have that spark at the quarterback position now. I grew up in South Georgia. Florida State was my favorite team growing up. They always had this electricity on both sides of the football. You know, even when 27-year-old Chris Winkie was playing quarterback, you had Peter Warwick at wide receiver, like all these playmakers all around the field. This kid, the Jordan Travis kid, seems to be able to give Florida State a spark, and this is the type of road win I think that they need to, go and get.
Yeah, and Blaine, we always talk about balance offensively, and I think the word you're looking for, Cone, is FSU used to strike fear into people.
On both sides of the ball.
On both sides of the ball. When you played Florida State, you knew you were going up against a national brand, but they played with an edge. Would they get crazy penalties sometimes? Yes. Would they be a little bit out of control? Yes. When I look at this Florida State team and Jordan Travis, who to me, at least early in the year, and it's really early in the season, has taken somewhat of a step in the passing game, not just from completing passes, but realizing, hey, if I'm efficient with the ball, there's nothing wrong with getting 5 or 6 yards at a time, throwing the check down, throwing the hitch, taking care of the ball. Jordan Travis has always been a good runner. That was his thing. The reason Florida State struggled to move the ball was that everybody knew that Travis wasn't consistent enough as a passer to have some semblance of balance on offense. So therefore, the offensive line gets overwhelmed by a loaded box. You feel constricted as a play caller because how much do you trust Jordan Travis to go through progressions and keep defenses honest in the back end, Blaine? It seems that Florida State has the most balanced attack, at least up to this point, that we've seen since Norvell's been in Tallahassee. And balance keeps you on the beat.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, you've seen Jordan Travis grow up a lot from last year. And you go back and you look at that first game against LSU. I mean, athletically, I feel like Florida State matched up with LSU pretty well. You have a couple guys on the D-line who are NFL players. I still get worried. Now, you go back to that LSU game, and you go back late to that LSU game, some of the play calls Mike Norvell had. I mean, you're pitching the ball on the 2-yard line to really ice the game.
Yeah.
I still question that. But they looked a lot cleaner than Florida State usually does, which is a good thing because Florida State always has the athletes to go down there and play. And Florida State used to be this and used to be that. But they need to have a decent season. You go through their schedule. They got Clemson. They got Miami. Like they got Florida. They're going to have teams that they can prove it. So if Mike can win 8 or 9 games with Florida State with the administration, I don't know how much really they care about football right now because you look what went down with Jimbo Fisher after he left. But when they start committing, you see when Miami commits. I mean, it's a problem. But when Florida State commits, it can be in that same tier as Miami when they commit to being good at something. So I want to see more first. They play a good Louisville team. But LSU that first half could barely complete a pass. And both teams really fumbled the bag in that game. So we'll see more as the season goes on. But I'm not jumping on the train or the bandwagon yet.
Yeah. And I agree with that. I'm not either. What I'm saying is they've set themselves up for an opportunity at Louisville. Again, we've seen it on the road. We've seen it at home. It's just trying to put together that consistent product. Now, we're at an inflection point with Florida State, as I mentioned. With Florida hiring Billy Napier, we'll see how that goes. They beat Utah, gave away a game to Kentucky, in my opinion. Then you have Miami, that we know what Mario can do. Tyler Van Dyke. There's a lot of momentum in Gainesville and in Miami right now. So Florida State having a good year can keep them from falling down a notch, even compared to a UCF, which had a big loss. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, with Gus Malzahn and UCF, it's not a foregone conclusion that place is going to blow up. Gus finds a way to ruin good things. He's a great guy, good person. That's fantastic. But he's not an elite football coach. He'll do some good, do some bad. He's kind of like a great appetizer at a good restaurant. That's what Gus Malzahn is. But again, it is an inflection point for Florida State, and it's going to be interesting to see. Hey, if you like what you heard and you want to hear more, go on over to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher. Check out Crane & Company live every day from 2 to 3 Central, where you can hear us spit it straight.